Chickens are nothing more than expensive lawn ornaments. So I have a question for you. How many of you identify as a crazy chicken person? Yeah? Me too. But for me, it started out slow. I went from having just a handful of hens and maybe 15 or 25 meat birds. So all of a sudden I turned around and now I have so many chickens, I don't even know that I have some of them that I have running around here. So it begs the question, are chickens really useful on the homestead? So how many of you have a spouse or a partner or even a friend that says, chickens are nothing more than expensive lawn ornaments? Well, don't worry. Today, I've got your back. I'm gonna try and give you a solid argument as to why chickens are useful on the homestead, and maybe, just maybe, we might be able to convert some of them over into crazy chicken people. Carmen, I don't need your help. I got this. I don't need y'all's help. I really don't. I don't need your help moving this thing. I can do it all by myself. Thank you. Now, the very first thing, the obvious one, is that chickens are good for food, right? Meat and eggs. But for most people, that's not really enough of a reason to keep chickens. So let's talk about some less obvious reasons. The first one is fertilizer. Now, fertilizer can be a bunch of different things, but we know that chicken poop is really high in nitrogen. And as I'm running them across the pasture, and I call it mob grazing, but just for chickens, they are adding concentrated nitrogen to my grass, which if you look around, you'll see there are strips where the grass is super dark green. And that's really good for my grass because I'm a grass farmer. I need to have good grass for my cows. So even if they're expensive lawn ornaments, you put those chickens out there on your grass and you're gonna have probably the healthiest grass in the neighborhood. Now another reason, at least on your homestead, not necessarily in your neighborhood, but on your homestead, if you have any kind of animal that poops in a pile, whether it's a dog, cow, whatever, free-range chickens will go around and they'll scatter out the poop so that you don't have these big mounds of grass in your pasture. And trust me when I tell you that is super helpful when you start trying to navigate around on your pasture and you have big bumps everywhere. So another thing that people will say is that chickens are their pets. And a good argument for that is pretty low cost pet. I think I would rather buy my chicken feed for the small amount that chickens consume in a day versus dog food or cat food or rabbit food. And the bonus is that, with the exception of the rabbit, dog and a cat aren't going to give you an egg. You're not going to eat them. So chicken can be a pet, low cost feed, and you're going to get eggs out of them. So another reason to have chickens on the homestead is they provide, at least for me, a good exercise routine. Every morning I'm up with the sun and I break a sweat because I'm moving chickens and I'm feeding them and watering them. So there's another plus of why chickens are useful on the homestead. Get in there. much cheaper than a gym membership. Trust me when I tell you that. And again, is a gym membership gonna give you eggs or meat? Hello. How are you doing? Oh, how am I doing? I'm so glad you asked. It's been a rough day. Girls have been fussing and fighting at each other. Jason's done lost his mind. He's off on the tractor somewhere. What are we gonna do about it? Just sit here and be pretty, huh? So one really cool thing about chickens and having them on your homestead is they can be your therapist. They can just sit and listen. Of course, there's that crazy part of crazy chicken person, because I'm talking to a chicken and expecting to get something in return. What do you think I should do? Now, in my opinion, another really good reason to have chickens on your homestead is they help you boost your dopamine and serotonin levels. Because you're out in the sun tending to your chickens, you're getting all of that filled back up. And not to mention, if you're fighting to have chickens on your homestead, they make you happy. So serotonin and dopamine levels up, that's pretty good in my book. And it's definitely cheaper than a therapist or a prescription for SSRIs that can mess up your system. They all have different side effects. What's the side effect of owning a chicken? Maybe a disappointed spouse. You might have to think about that one. One really cheap, useful thing on the homestead is if you have a rooster, which most people don't want to keep roosters on their homestead. But in my opinion, it's nice to have a rooster on the homestead because they are a cheap alarm clock. See?
The chicken indeed was a paid actor.
So another good reason for chickens is if you have a compost bin or pile, chickens will get in there and scratch through it and move stuff around so that you won't have to get in as often to flip and turn your compost. So to me, that's another pretty useful thing to have chickens on the homestead. Now another reason why chickens are useful on the homestead, they are great for pest control. Now, for one, in your garden, they'll pick bugs and stuff up out of the soil and even off the leaves of some of your vegetables, flowers, things like that. Now, you do have to be careful because sometimes they will peck your actual fruit, vegetables, and stuff like that. So you do have to kind of keep an eye on them. But they will come into an area like this where there's all kinds of grubs and all kinds of worms and stuff, and they'll thin that out, and it makes them very low maintenance because you don't really have to do anything with them. You just set them free and let them do what chickens do. How can I tell everybody that chickens are low maintenance and you're on the other side of the fence? Like, how does that happen? So another useful thing for chickens on the homestead is they will take care of your kitchen scraps. Now, some people will put that stuff in the compost, but if you're feeling generous, you can take some of your watermelon or some of your lettuce, things like that, and they'll clean that stuff up for you. This watermelon right here, in less than like 5 minutes, it will be nothing but just the green strip of the rind. That'll be it. So they'll take care of all of that for you, and then you don't have to worry about it rotting or smelling bad. Now, another cool thing about having chickens is they're cheap entertainment. I promise you, if you sit around and watch chickens long enough, sometimes it's better than anything you can find on Hulu or Amazon Prime or Apple TV. And I promise you, it costs a lot less too.
I don't know about you, but this is more entertainment than chickens.
Oh, come on. You know you want to let it go. Like I said, entertainment.
That's karma biting me in the butt.
So I hope that this video has kind of convinced you or convinced your spouse, your partner, your friends that maybe you're not so crazy after all. Because I think I've proven today that chickens are, in fact, useful on the homestead. Thank you for stopping by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless. Have a nice day.